It is no secret to the Gundam and anime community that Gundam Seed Destiny is seen as a niche failure of a show that ultimately fails to live up to the expectations of viewers and fans alike. For today's video topic, I just want to talk about the utter genius of Gundam Seed Destiny's ending. In retrospect, the conclusion and ending of Seed Destiny was always disregarded as somewhat ambiguous or vague to the many fans and viewers of the anime. While conducting additional research for this video topic, I've come across many online forums and in real life fans that believe the already controversial anime had a particularly weak and dissatisfying ending that left more questions to be answered. A lot of fans believe that the ending did not solve or answer a lot of plot points that were introduced in the show. Like, what happened to the state of Orb and Zaf at the end of the story? What about the fate of the main characters in the journey? Like, what happens to Shin, Athrun, and Kira after the war ended? And I'm here to tell y'all today that despite the show leaving us with more questions than answers, this is one of the best selling points of the anime. And I'm going to tell y'all why. Alright, going back on what I said, there were a lot of questions left unanswered. But the biggest one of them all was the moral ambiguity between Durandal and Kira. In my opinion, I do think that the moral ambiguity of whoever's right or wrong between Kira and Durandal plays heavily to the theme that the anime is trying to convey to the viewers' minds. To recall what happened in the anime for Seed and Seed Destiny, for those whom do not remember the events that unfolded, is a brief summary. So basically, what happened is that from the very start of Seed and its sequel, Seed Destiny, racism and prejudice were always the primary driving force of conflict between the gene-modified superhuman-esque coordinators and the unaltered naturals. As a result of the discrimination, both sides of the conflict made superweapons that exercise specifically for bloodshed and for killing the opposing enemies of their respective nations. Over the course of the many towering battles depicted in the anime, the consequences of war has its effects. Lives being lost, friends and families being torn apart, nations and citizens in disarray, and even political and economical turnovers. It begs the questions, will the endless cycle of sacrifice of war ever halt? Will one day humanity choose to coincide hand in hand instead of using our own fingers to pull triggers at people we fail to understand? Enter Chairman Gilbert Durandal. The chairman of Zaf Plants proposes a solution to the aforementioned issue of conflict itself that can be taken ultimately as truth itself to the provision of both viewers and fans alike. This being in the form of the Destiny Plan, a totalitarian and dictatorship-like society where every citizen's life will be planned and dictated by their genes at birth, essentially creating a world in which the government and its higher-ups control what you do for a living to fill job roles in society. Well, the upside to this is that, you get to do what you're most suited for and excel at, but without any free will or say in what you want for yourself. Durandal's whole reason of why the prejudice-filled discrimination conflict exists is that as long as competition and strife exist from society, people can never truly be satisfied with their way of living without having the need to compare each other's lifestyle and ultimately their social identity. The issue concerning social barriers of race and status excites the ambition of greed and the need to reach higher heights to compete with others. Durandal believes that all of us desire one simple thing in life, the ability to be happy and live a satisfied life, filled with security and without worry, the very ability to do what we're made out to do and enjoy life without regret and fear of being judged or compared to another person. Because your role in life is already planned to match the best of your abilities and skill set, you would never have to worry about any missteps or struggles in life. It is this solution that many characters of the show, and even some fans as well, take as truth that can grant ultimate security and peace without the anxious feelings of conflict ever rising again. All of you are wondering, how does it work? Well, before I actually go on with this, I have to explain how this process actually works because it wasn't really explained that well in the anime. You had to watch like the special edition and even read the manga a little bit. So basically, on the Genesis, the moon base, the Messiah, the Genesis has this supercomputer that has all the records of all the genetic makeup of every citizen of both the plants and Earth. So basically, what happens is that when someone is born, their genetic makeup goes through a process, a screening process of all possible lifestyle choices made in the computer. The computer basically just picks out the best outcome for you to be when you are born. Alright, so basically, what I'm trying to say is when a baby or embryo is born, the genetic makeup goes through a screening process, ultimately determining what that baby is going to do in society when it grows up. The computer of the Genesis super weapon, Death Star ripoff, whatever, can decide the best outcome for your life before you're even born, basically. Let's just say the computer chooses you to become a software engineer because that's what fits your gene pool the best. And you can grow up and be a software engineer, but without any say on what you want to do if you want another job for yourself. Basically, saying that you have to oblige in this society and play the role that was given to you by the higher ups. And I know you guys are probably wondering, what about the pre existing citizens of society? Well, their lives also get affected as well. For example, let's just say you're a janitor, alright? You're a janitor at a park. You've been working at that for years now, and you're kind of screwed for your life. But the destiny plan can alter your fate by looking through your genetic makeup and seeing what job best fits you. You can go from being a janitor to a cop, anything like software engineer, artist, musician, anything like that. So in summary, Durando pretty much is playing godhood by using a destiny plan to control everybody's lives almost by giving them what they excel at in society. Pretty much saying you're going to have to play the role I give you or else you won't be satisfied with your own life. Meanwhile, on the other hand, one of the protagonists of the show, and yes, I said it, protagonist, because I do think Kira is not the only protagonist in this show. Athrun and Shin also have a lot of character development as well, but that's a different topic for a different video. Anyways, Kira believes that the future itself is unpredictable and unprecedented, something that is out of bounds for anyone to control, and that even if war and bloodshed will continue tomorrow, one belief that never falters from Kira is that humanity can eventually learn and change. The hope that humanity and its people learn from their past mistakes as a means to reflect and build upon them to create a better future. Kira argues that hardships and struggles are part of the human life cycle. Life itself is filled with difficulties and pain. And of course, we can't always expect things to go as expected. With times of sadness can also come times of joy. We can fall and rise over and over again. But this very experience is what ultimately makes life worthwhile to live. And by erasing the very essence and feeling of adversity, Kira believes that the human experience will cease to exist. And for that reason, if we lose the ability to fail and choose what we want to do without failure, we would never strive for our truest dreams and goals, nor mature, because we won't get to know or learn anything from living a perfect life. However, in the final episode of the anime, Gundam Seed Destiny, episode 50, The Final Power, when Durando questioned Akira about the potential possibility of another conflict rising again with that Destiny plan and what would Kira do in case this ever happens? Surprisingly, Kira does not have an answer to this. And yes, you guys heard me right. Kira, the main protagonist of the second half of the show, does not have an answer to the main villain's monologue. Instead, Kira just laments that he'll just simply fight for the future when the time comes if another battle arises. And this is where things get really good. A key takeaway that I found crucial to the topic that I'm about to explain to you guys right now is one of Durando's main lines saying, and I quote, "But between your world and the one I've described, which one would the people really prefer?" And the important word in this line is, of course, referring to the people, as in us, the viewers, the anime fans. By using Durando's character to ask the indirect question, the anime intentionally goes the viewers into thinking what we want for our path to be for the future. Yes, you heard me correct. You, as in the viewers. Ultimately, the beauty of all this is that the future is up to us to decide what we want and think for ourselves. We can either choose to pave the way for our own ideal reality of life or not. Let me explain. One of the main themes of Seed Destiny itself is to remain true to one's beliefs and retain our individualistic behaviors to think for ourselves. The anime reflects its messages upon the viewers and invokes us to think about our choices that can create the future or path we choose. You see, let's just say when we're kids, right? We would often look up to adults and ask for them the questions of what we want to do. You see, that's okay. And, like I said, when we're kids, we can also look up to these characters, Shin, Atherin, or even Kira, and we could be like them. But at the end of the day, it's up to you, yourself, to think about what you want for the future. Ultimately, it's true that Kira has chosen his answer for the world he sought out to protect. Yes, but the anime itself is actively challenging viewers to think for ourselves on what we want and choose to be the answer of our own tomorrow. The show itself is essentially challenging the viewers about the future that is in our hands to create. We can choose to repeat the same mistakes of yesterday or learn from them to create the solutions of tomorrow. Kira has chosen his own answers for the future he wants to create. But at the end of the day, we're not Kira. We're ourselves. We have our own future to build with our own hands. And ultimately, as long as we retain the choice to choose, we are free to craft any road we want in this world, whether good or bad. And let me just ask you this. What is the world you want to create? What is the future you want to build with your own hands? In conclusion, I just want to say, ultimately, it's awesome that the directors didn't really screw up the ending that much as I thought. I've rewatched this anime over many, many times, and I've realized now that it's actually quite poetic, that the ending itself is pretty much saying it's up for you to decide your own future, your own path. And that Kira and Durando, both of them aren't right or wrong. It's just their own decision on how they see the world. And essentially, it's challenging us to see how we view our own world and how we want to build our own future with our hands. Ultimately, the splendor of the ending is that it's up for you to decide on how you want to shape the world. It's up to you to decide who you can vote into office, and how you could shape public policies or even change how society works, it's all up to you, your own hands, of what you want to create for the future. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. If you guys liked it, please like and subscribe. Or if you guys didn't like it, you guys can leave a dislike or anything. I'm not really forcing y'all to do either of those two. Remember, the choice is yours, guys. It's all about freedom.